Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the main event. A battle that's been raging on. How long has it been going on? I don't know. Decades? Half a century? Does anybody know? Does anyone know how long this battle's been raging? Anyone? Great. I'm just gonna say for a while. A battle that's been going on for a very long time. It is outlining versus pantsing. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Tim Green. I write under the pen name T Green and future ruler of the world. At least that's what the voices tell me. And if you can't see my hands, there we go. Today we're going to be talking about how to develop your novel, either through outlining your novel or pantsing it. And I actually got my hands in screen this time. Good for me. What the fuck do I mean about pantsing my novel? Google outlining versus pantsing your novel and see what comes up. We all know what an outline is. It's that thing that we all hated in high school that our English teachers made us do. God, do I hate that. So what is pantsing? It comes from the term writing by the seat of your pants. It's a common term in writing for organic writing. Organic writing is simple. You just come up with an idea and you write. That's it. Nothing else. There's literally nothing to it. The reason I bring this up is because there seems to be a debate that you can write your novel one of the two ways. That's bullshit. To give you an example of what I mean is, think of a line right here, okay? On this side, you have outlining. On this side, you have pantsing, or organic writing. Most writers fall somewhere along that line. If you go right in the center, where is this? There we go. Right there, I think that would be a kind of a cross of knowing your beginning, knowing your end, and maybe the middle, and everything else you fill in. But most writers fall somewhere along this line. For those of you who are interested, I fall somewhere right around here. Yeah, we'll go right there. Today, it's all about the pros and cons of both styles. I'll be giving you 3 pros and 3 cons for each. Because I'm an outliner, guess what? Pantsing's going first. Our first pro comes from Stephen King, and it's the reason why he prefers to write by the seat of his pants. Pro tip number 1 for pantsing your novel, or organically. The reason why most pantsers love writing by the seat of the pants is because it's a sense of discovery. They don't know anything about their novel. They only know the beginning. As Stephen King likes to say, it's like unearthing the story little by little as he goes. That is why pantsers love it, and it's one of the actually good things about it. You don't know what is going to happen. It's like picking up a brand new book and you're like, ooh, you had the premise, but you have no clue how it's going to turn out. Pro tip number 2, the plot shifts easily. Not knowing where your novel's going, it allows for your plot to go here and there all the time very easily. You get an idea for another scene, you can do it, you can write it. Writing organically, you're not locked into anything, so you can really just go with the wind. Allows you to see what you are coming up with and allowing it to come out. And pro tip number 3, your characters evolve naturally. So, like your story, your characters aren't locked in. You don't really know anything about them. So as you're writing, you're figuring this out. You can actually play around with it. One of my favorite authors, Brandon Sanderson, is a known outliner. He likes to organically write his characters as he's writing because it allows him to actually have some control over them. It also allows him to, as he's going forward in the first draft, he can play around with different things until he finds that spot just right. That's all for the pros. Now it's time for the cons. Con number 1 for writing your novel by the seat of your pants, you might get stuck. This is an issue all writers face. You get stuck sometimes. This happens to outliners, it happens to pantsers, but it's more likely to happen to someone who doesn't know where their story's going. The idea you started with, you may get to the end of what you came up with. Wait, where do I go? I don't know where to go. Like, that was it. That's all I have. It just means you may not know where to go next. But just know this does happen to everyone. Con number 2, more editing. You know that part where I talked about you have the freedom to explore your story and your characters? Guess what? That exploring comes with a cost. You're probably going to do more editing in your second draft than an outliner will. At some point while writing your novel, you're going to figure out where your story is going, and it's probably not going to match up with the beginning, so you're going to have to make a left or right turn, and guess what? That's okay. That's what a first draft is for. You figure out what you're doing, and then you fix it. As a pantser, you're probably going to have a lot more editing to do. And con number 3 for writing your novel by the seat of your pants, you may have to stop to research. One of the problems with writing your novel by the seat of your pants is you don't know anything about your story. So if you decide, as you start writing, your character's career is an astrophysicist, a botanist, army general, guess what? Chances are, unless you're one of those things, you don't know anything about it, or enough to make it seem convincing that your character is actually in that field. So what do? Research! Yay! You may have to stop to research your character's career or an issue, depending on what the story is. One of the most common pieces of advice of writing is that you write every day. And if you have to stop to research and you need a lot of research, you may not be writing. Be prepared to stop and research what you need to know. It's unfortunately one of the issues with not knowing anything about your story. That's all for the pros and cons for writing by the seat of your pants or organic writing. Next is time for the pros and cons of outlining. Man, after shouting, my pipes are dry. Whew. Where'd my top go? My top's missing. I dropped my top. That feels good. Here we go. Give this moist. Okay, coffee. Time for coffee. There we go. Alright, let's do this. Pro tip number 1 for outlining your novel. You know your story. One of the things I like about being an outliner is before I ever write anything, I know my story. I know where I'm starting, I know where I'm ending, I know my characters, I know everything. Sometimes a little too much. When you know your story, you know what's going to happen, you get to have more fun writing. I find by knowing my story, I write faster than not knowing my story. Pro tip number 2, less editing. You know that part where I talked about there's more editing for pantsing? There's less editing for outlining, generally. When you know where you're going in your story, you don't have to edit a lot. It really depends on your flow and are you too wordy or not enough words. It's really becoming more about subtracting and polishing than actual editing. But in general terms, outliners have less editing than pantsers. And finally, pro tip number 3 for outlining your novel, you know your characters. Just like you know your story, you know your characters. And that's not a bad thing. You know how your characters are going to act in different areas, in different situations of your novel, so you can plan for those. If you're not a direct outliner where you know point for point every single action that's going to happen, and there are people who do that, kinda, yes. You know how your characters will react to those situations that you add in because you know the characters. You can't say the same thing about this for pantsing because you're discovering your characters. That's all the pros for outlining your novel. Now it's time for the cons. Con number 1 for outlining your novel, your characters may be limited. I just got done talking about how great it is to know your characters, but here's the thing. With outlining, your characters are generally built into your outline. So if you decide to change something in your outline, more specifically, change something with your characters, that will affect the rest of the story. You can't make a major change to your characters a quarter way through your novel and expect them to act the exact same way later on, which means you have to go and fix that. Now, some people will just do this while writing and try to keep that in mind. Others don't. They will actually have to stop and re-outline their crap. I have been there and it sucks a lot. So the great thing is there is to know your characters. It also prevents what you really can do with them without making major changes to the story. Con number 2, lack of interest. I hate this scene, but I gotta get through to get the next action sequence. Oh my god, I can't wait for the next action sequence. Why do characters have to have slow moments? It should be all rise. Knowing your story, that means you know the end of the story. You know what's gonna happen. And guess what? That may get boring. You may lose interest. Generally, if you're losing interest while writing, it's probably because you're writing a scene that doesn't need to be there. Once you know what's going to happen, you may like, I know what's going to happen. So do I really need to write this? If you want to be a writer, you do. It becomes even more of a challenge when a brand new idea pops in your head. Oh my god! What if the devil and God had a baby? Oh my god, that'd that'd be so awesome. Ooh, I want to write, but crap, I gotta write the 1,500 words into the books over. But I don't want to write. It's boring. I'm just gonna write this new story. That can happen. You may feel, oh my god, I have all these ideas for this new story. If you want to be a writer, you have to write. If you don't like that, the writing part is boring to you, then go ahead, chase after all these different ideas. Keep going from story to story and never accomplish anything. Just don't bitch and complain when you don't have a book in 10 years. Con number 3, always outlining, never writing. One of the issues outliners can always have is continually outlining their novel. They may get to a point where they feel like they're ready to go, and even start to write their book, and then they see a problem, like, oh no, I gotta go fix it, and go back to re-outlining. Or they'll get done, and they're like, now I'm gonna start writing it, but I'm gonna go over the outline really quickly so I know everything. And they'll spot something, and then they'll add something, and they're like, wait, that changes this, and that changes this. Oh, but this goes over here. That can happen. You have to get to a point, I'm writing this piece of shit, and then I can fix it in the second draft. That's what the first draft is for. But the key thing is you do need to get your book written. Does it really matter? Really? It doesn't matter at all. Does it? Come on. Somebody tell me. Somebody tell me. It doesn't really matter where you fall on this line. All that matters is that you figure out what works best for you, and you stick to it. It's time for the exercise. So what you're going to do is I want you to come up with 2 different scenes. It can be the same characters, it can be different characters. It doesn't really matter. Here's what you're going to do. The first one you're going to do, come up with a starting point. I want you to figure out exactly where this scene is going to take place. And write. That's it. Right into the scene end. The second scene, what you're going to do is you're going to outline it. You can be as detailed as you want. It's just you're going to make sure you have an outline and then write it. Doing this, you'll actually get to see what it's like to know where you're going to be beginning but not know where you're going. And then you're also going to know what it's like to know the beginning, everything in between, and the ending. This way, you can kind of see which one works best for you. That's all I got for you this week. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Any other pros or cons you can think of for outlining or pantsing your novel. I post new videos on Tuesdays. If you'd like to be notified when I post new videos, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. And if you made it to the end of this video, please give me a thumbs up and let me know you like this video. And if you'd like to know more about writing and specifically world building, I do a writer's podcast with my buddy Adam from the 01 podcast group. It is on world building. We are actually world building a new world live as part of the series. Alright, well, I hope everyone had fun. Have a good week. Bye.